Hi, everyone. This is Victoria English, head coach at Alcohol Free Lifestyle. Thanks for joining me today. You are in for a real treat. I'm interviewing Bradley Harradine from South Australia. Brad just finished up his 90 days with us, and he's moving into our graduate program, Beyond 90. As a Project 90 graduate, Brad has undergone a tremendous transformation. If you see this video, you'll see he's a tough-looking guy, typical Aussie, and has a wonderful personality and is a big sweetheart. He got really, really honest during his program with us, very vulnerable. And again, when you see him, you'll find it hard to believe, but toward the end of his 90 days, he was reading us poetry from Rumi. That's what a teddy bear he is. So we're all big fans of Brad, and he's generous enough to share some of his experiences and his transformation with you today. So Brad, thanks for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So when I say big tough guy, your background kind of backs that up a little bit. Maybe more than a little bit. You certainly attended some schools of the hard knocks, had some consequences, overcame a lot of things. Can you share a little bit about how you ended up where you are with us today?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a northern suburb of Adelaide, Gawler. Some people might know it, some people might not, but it was sort of the lower demographic area of Adelaide. And as I grew up, I sort of was involved with martial arts, and just sort of to protect yourself and look after yourself. It was sort of just part of the family tradition. And as I went through that, obviously, I sort of went off track a bit and lost my way, and ended up partaking in probably other substances that weren't so good for me, and got me in a lot of trouble up to probably the age of about 18. And then finally sort of hit my rock bottom, I would believe, at that stage, and decided it was time to probably find a better life before it ended badly, and that's what I did. I sort of, from there, I started training and trying to give back to the community. At probably about the age of 21, I was also an apprentice chef at that point. And that's where I sort of started my journey back to health and happiness.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that. For our listeners, there are parts of Brad's story that I think are going to resonate with you, and perhaps resonate with some of the listeners in particular. Brad got involved in some unfortunate things at a very young age, as he just shared. He had some tough consequences and made a resolution to change, which I think is very admirable at that young age, especially that age where we might think that we're invincible despite some of the consequences that we're facing. And so you mentioned before we started recording that alcohol was always a factor. It was always around, but it wasn't the big ugly thing that got you in trouble. And so I have a question. When you hear about addiction and things like that, it's usually framed as drugs and alcohol. I use the term, I just say drugs, because they are all drugs. But I'm curious about what it was like when you decided to give up the so-called heavy drugs, change your life, give back to the community, get involved in the martial arts, start your career as a chef. Did you view alcohol as something safer, harmless?
Oh, absolutely. And, the funny thing is, I will say, Victoria, that deep down, I knew it wasn't good for me. But I guess I never had the information, or as we're socially conditioned, that it is okay to have it and it is okay to drink it. So through that whole career in martial arts, it's like I mentioned to you before this, I did feel like I was hiding in the shadows with it, but I didn't know why I felt bad about it, because everyone says it's okay. So I knew it wasn't. As I said to you, I taught kids in martial arts and taught adults. I was a leader in the community, and I felt like I was hiding in the shadows, drinking on the weekends, and felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. So, but I didn't know why. I did not know why until I've sort of come to meet you guys now.
I think that's a great point. And if you're listening to this and that sounds familiar, pay attention to it. Alcohol is what I call a socially expected drug, meaning it's not just accepted, it is expected. Australians typically, your culture drinks even more than us Americans. So I know that it is quite prevalent in Australia. And yet you hid it for a reason. As I've come to know you, you are quite a very, very deep and quite sensitive man. So knowing what you know now, why do you think you hid it?
I hid it because I felt like, well, I hid it because I felt like I was doing the wrong thing, but didn't know why. Because it is socially accepted. You just end up sort of drinking to mask, drinking to be social, drinking because it's, apparently supposedly done to create relationships, and so you feel just about isolated if you're not doing it. But it never felt right for me. Never felt right for me. I always didn't want to drink, but I never knew how not to.
Well said. Yes, because I'm guessing in that community of athletes working with adults and working with children, somebody in there had a drink and it wasn't a big deal. So there was something inside of you saying, Brad, this isn't right for you.
I always knew I'd be a better person without it. I just didn't know how to go about it. And I never wanted it there, but it was always there. And I just didn't know why.
Now that I'm going to guess resonates with every single person listening. I thought I'd be a better person without it. I just didn't know how to not drink. We'll touch on that again in a moment. You also mentioned that, well, before I go there, during that time when you had given up the street drugs, I'll call them, other things, and you were drinking but keeping it in the shadows, and you told yourself it's because you were teaching children and you were an athlete. Was it a big problem? Did you get very, very drunk? Did you misbehave? Did you get into trouble when you would drink?
No, no, I didn't. During those years after the street ones, you mean, after the street drugs? Yeah, no, no, I was never in trouble. I was never a drink driver. I was never, you know, out of control. No, no, I wasn't. No, it was just a slow creeping sort of drug, I suppose you could say. Yeah.
Mm. And therein lies the cognitive dissonance, right? Inside, you know, Brad, this isn't good for you. This isn't something you should be doing. You'd be a better person without it. But the other side of the coin is, I'm fine. Look at that guy over there, how messy he gets. Look at that guy, you know, ending up in bar fights and this and that. So I can see where that inner conflict would have shown itself.
And as every Australian, and I suppose in America as well, that, you know, it's just socially done. Like if you're going out with friends, you have a drink. If you're going out for dinner, you have a drink. If you're going anywhere, you have a drink. And if you're not, people sort of look at you weird. You know, there was an old saying that people used to say, never trust a bloke that doesn't drink. You know, that was one of the old sayings in Australia. And it's just that social conditioning around it is just insane. So you're really out the gates behind, you know, and what chance have you got if you haven't got the right information to be able to overcome these feelings that I had, you know, in the past. It's impossible with all the social conditioning and social acceptance around alcohol.
It's enough to tell that knowing inner voice to be quiet, to shush.
100%.
Right.
Yes, shush.
Yeah, shush.
Yeah.
I'm fine. What are you talking about? Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Let me drink in
Yeah.
peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll talk about that inner voice again. So you mentioned that as you continued in your athletic pursuits, which I'm going to let you, well, you're not one to do this, but I'm going to invite you to brag a bit. Tell us a little bit about some of your athletic wins and accomplishments.
Yeah, so I was a first degree black belt in Tung Sudo or Muay Thai. I did practice that for about 15, 16 years. I'd won quite a few Australian championships. I've also, where I cleaned up and got a lot of gold medals. And then the biggest one was probably the international championships, which was over your neck of the woods in Atlanta, where I took out the whole thing, and 4 gold, 1 silver within sparring, weaponry, breaking, that sort of thing. After that, I went to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where I competed a lot in Australia. Never went international with that, but once again won a lot of competitions there, and had quite a successful career in that also. And I was actually training for a MMA competition when that's when I was 40 at that stage, or 39. And you know, I started to get quite a few injuries, and sort of that's where my career ended. But I had quite a few accolades up to that point.
Like many athletes, you suffered some, I talked about the school of hard knocks. You suffered some hard knocks and had some injuries.
Yeah, so bulging discs, you know, knees. I've broken my ankles a couple of times. Yeah, quite a few injuries that comes with the territory.
Comes with the territory, yes. I'm I'm having a coaching moment as you just minimized all of those injuries, Brad. That's a lot. That's a lot. And yes, it comes with the territory, but also ouch. You and I talked about this. I have no medals to show for all of my physical injuries, but I've had 4 ACL reconstructions. And so you and I have this in common that hey, alcohol is an anesthetic. I used to drink over my knee pain. It was quite painful every day. And that is exhausting and hard to live with. So even though we both knew that it was bad for us, it's not something we should be using as a pain medication, we both did it.
Surely did. Yeah, I like I say, once I hit that 39, 40 years old, and I had probably the first biggest one was the broken ankles and that you sort of mend and heal, but the bulging discs in my back was debilitating. I'd had back soreness before, but you just keep pushing through in that genre. You just push through. You take some Voltaren, take some painkillers, and off you go train again. But the bulging disc just debilitated me, and was a massive turning point in my life where I was starting to go, wait a minute, I can't do what I used to do. I can't do a spinning back kick, or I can't do a flying, I can't do this stuff anymore because my body won't let me. And it just emotionally killed me. And that's when I sort of started drinking sort of heavily again, at the age of probably 40. And definitely to mask pain for one, but also emotionally because it just killed me. I didn't know what else to do because my whole life had revolved around that.
I think that's a key point, what you just said. You were using it to numb the physical pain. And certainly anytime that we're misusing this substance, there's certainly emotional pain that we're dealing with as well. But your primary use was to alleviate temporarily this chronic pain and the pain that you couldn't just push through anymore. And then you used those 2 words, emotional pain, right? So it sounds like when you realized your body was in revolt, it was saying no more, we're not doing these things, that impacted you tremendously, your identity, a stress release. And isn't that what alcohol loves? It just loves that little opening that it can move into and kind of prey upon our vulnerabilities.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what it did. I went from sort of casual drinking to I ended up having a knee operation as well, which I had 5 months off from working, and that's when it sort of really attacked me as well. When I was bored, nothing to do, sitting around, I couldn't train, couldn't do anything. So what did I do? I started drinking more and more beer, and sort of that's where it definitely went to a new high for me anyway.
The next level. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you're hearing this story and any of it makes sense to you, you're not alone. Despite my knee surgeries, I was still a runner. Then I got really, really into Bikram, the hot yoga. And it was those were my drugs. And I would take time off from drinking and use those things instead, because I was chasing feeling something different, something other than what was just me feeling the emotions, feeling sadness, anger, whatever was coming up. I was chasing a high. And I thought, oh, I've got this solved. I've got this licked. I'll just run and I'll do hot yoga. Well, guess what? I popped the ACL again. And guess what moved in once I was like you? I was non-weight bearing for 6 or 7 weeks. And back it came. It was just waiting it was waiting.
Does.
And
Hides under the doormat to you. It gets an opening.
it does. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's under the doormat. Yeah, so you just reminded me of that my drinking also kind of went to a next level when I lost those outlets. Yeah, interesting. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of our athletes, weekend warriors, what have you. When you can't get that release, that physical release, the emotional release, the endorphins, all the good things that come along with that sort of intense exercise. Yeah.
Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you. So that was at age 40. You just turned 46. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Before we go on, what
right.
was it like having an alcohol-free 46th birthday?
That was fantastic. I was what we do. Well, I was actually I went away with my boys. We were over Ardrossan, which is a coastal town. I actually you would have seen it on the polos. I took a bit of a brief snap of all the cliffs, and so one of my promises to myself through this journey was to go back to my childhood self and have fun. And my birthday, we were jetty jumping, snorkeling with my 16 and 13-year-old boys. So yeah, it was great.
That was a brilliant polo. Yes. So Marco Polo, you guys, is an app that we use in our community. It's a video app. And people say, oh, I don't like being on video, but it's actually fantastic. And so along with getting to really know each other quite well and share some of our vulnerable moments if a craving comes up and things like that, we also get to see other members' backyards where they live. So we get to see Ireland and Australia. We saw the Australian beach, all sorts of places. And that was a really, really powerful post when you shared about your birthday. Yeah.
It was great. So I'll remember that. I'll remember that for the next 50 years.
And so will your boys.
Mm.
So will your boys. What a wonderful, beautiful shift. And I love that you have committed to becoming childlike, enjoying life like with the unbridled curiosity and joy of a kid. That's what I call a nice reprieve from the realities of life.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And it's one I mean, that might resonate with some, but some of the best times in my life, I liken to, well, when I was a kid. Some of the best memories are from when I was a kid, when I wasn't drinking and everything was okay, and everything was uncomplicated, So I think taking those moments out where you can, not every day you can, but to be able to have a clear enough head and let yourself go enough to be able to go, you know what, I'm going to be a kid today. And to have that ability, it's just so much fun, so much fun.
It is. Yes. So if you're wondering, can I actually have fun without alcohol? Brad will tell you that you'll have a hell of a lot more fun without alcohol. And he's proof of it. For sure. All right. So you started really drinking quite a bit at 40. Let's talk about that inner voice again. What was it doing as you lost some of these outlets, these physical outlets, and the emotional pain started to escalate as your drinking increased? Tell me a bit about that inner voice.
Oh, the inner voice was, yeah, it was very, very confused, I would say. It was killing me over that 5 years. It kept on masking up an old band-aid, you think you're slowly, at the age of 40, I started drinking a bit more, and I felt like it wasn't a problem. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, I think I might have been about 42 and I was drinking far too much. And I thought, you know what, I better slow down. And then you realize, wait a minute, I can't slow down. You get off for a week or so, and then you go back to it as soon as there's a stress. And then you mask up another mask. So, you disappoint the kids because you said you were going to do something. And it was just in turmoil. My inner peace, my inner worthiness, my inner, you know, just Bradley was in turmoil. It was killing me slowly, physically and mentally.
It goes
Really
that
took away my
way.
self-worth. Yeah.
Yes, self-worth, absolutely. And it's interesting, the whole time that you were drinking, you knew it wasn't the right thing to do. And there wasn't enough evidence to do anything about it. And it's so crazy that we are conditioned to believe that it has to get oh so bad before we are even given permission to consider changing our relationship with alcohol. And the drug itself demands that we use it more and more and more. Our self-worth, our self-esteem is just being bludgeoned more and more and more. And so what I've heard from you and from many members, and I've certainly said it myself, is that you do that enough times, you break enough promises to yourself, to your kids. You actually do start to believe that you're that person, a person who isn't really worth a whole lot. Can you look back on that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, no, you're right. I was just going to say, and that's so true. What you say, you become that person, or you think there's no way out. I gave up alcohol at one stage, probably 6 months before I came to you guys, for probably 4 or 5 months, and white knuckling it through that. It started out okay, and I thought, oh, I got this, and then you see everyone drinking around you, and you just got no information to bounce off, to give you the tools to be able to sort of conquer it, and you just end up going back to it. And I did that probably 3-4 times over that 5 years, and I honestly believe that, you know what, is this it for me? Do I got to do this for the rest of my life? Is there any way out, or is this just who I am? And it is debilitating at times, and yeah.
I started to wonder the same thing. Is this it? I had been on and off that merry-go-round so many times. I thought, really? So this is my story. This is how it's going to go. But human beings are amazing, right? That one little seed of hope, a little seed of self-compassion, like, okay, damn it, my story doesn't end this way. This isn't how it's going to go. Can give us just enough to take that first step. So good on you.
Thank you. Good on you.
Cheers to us, mate. And so what's it take for, again, sweetheart of a man, but a tough guy, right? A driven guy, a guy who pushes through. You've used that word a couple of times, pushes through. What does it take for you to finally say, you know what? No, I'm not just going to push through again. I'm going to I'm going to reach out to this guy, James, that I keep seeing pop up.
I guess as humans, we're always searching to be better, and searching for answers if we're not happy in the state we're in. So I was listening to the podcast, obviously with the ambition to give away alcohol, because I knew it was killing me, and I knew it was destroying my family life, everything, and I just wanted off and out. And I started listening to different podcasts about kicking alcohol, and James resonated with me, and yourself as well. You were on there, and Sarah, and you guys. I was listening, and it just made sense. And heard about this P90 opportunity, and I made the call, and sort of the rest is history, and it just resonated with me, and the talk about it and people's experiences. I had to investigate it.
I'm so glad you did. I know there's a lot of people who are glad you did. So what do you think about yourself now?
Yeah, wow, that's that's a continuing journey, but at the minute, me from 90 days ago is phenomenal. The change, and like I said in the polo once again, is just my self-worth. We get the tools. You've given us the tools to understand what's going on in our brain, and really overcome the pangs of alcohol, and going back to alcohol and understanding what's happening with the neuroscience, which is fantastic. But for me, what I've got back is just the worthiness and self-worth. My kids trust me again. I trust myself to rock up again. I don't wake up with a hangover and go, oh, I'm not going to go to this, I'm not going to go to that. I commit to something. I commit to it with honesty and love, and I've just found meaning in my life, and excitement.
Yeah, you have. The words pushing through, those are words that we hear often in our community. Everyone in there is a high achiever, driven, intelligent, focused, goal-oriented. And by you sharing this, it's going to leave an impression on some of our listeners who have tried all the tactics that provided them with success and achievement in the past. And for some weird reason, it's just not working when it comes to alcohol. And like you said, the neuroscience, your brain, once it's accustomed to this drug and becomes to an extent dependent on this drug, it doesn't care how much money you've made, or how many medals you've won, what role you hold in your community. It doesn't care.
And I guess the beauty of this program is, before this, I mean, I was part of community, of course, but this community is just you've got the freedom to open up, because everyone's on the same journey, and from all walks of life over the world, sorry, and from different genres of corporate, and me in offshore, and just so many different people. But you know what, we've all got had the same affliction, and we're all on the same journey, and there's just so much support and love and openness and honesty, which just makes it so much easier as well, because you got that support network that you can open up to without judgment. So it's just amazing. It really is. That's what's been big for me, and helping me open up. You say big tough guy, and you know what, like that guy had to be there to sort of get through certain areas of my life. But deep down, I knew this is who I am. I'm actually a nurturing, caring person. So that's what this has taught me also. It's bringing me back to who I really am, you know. So it's, you know, I can't thank you guys enough. It's amazing.
Oh gosh, so beautifully put. Yes, and you're absolutely right. Everyone in life, but certainly the people who come into our program have worn different masks, different personas, and it's a relief to begin to take off that armor and just be yourself and come home to the real you, be with the real you. And you know, I mean, if I were in a dark alley, I wouldn't mind walking with Brad, because he does give that persona. I'm not going to be mad about it, but I love that you have opened up and been vulnerable and real with us. You have, well, just like you were back in your earlier days, you're a role model and a teacher for others. And that's pretty cool. Yeah. So before we wind up, Brad is staying around. He decided to continue his journey with us into Beyond 90. Beyond 90 is for our members who have completed 90 days, but once they learn the neuroscience and how we recover and heal from alcohol use disorder, he understood the importance of 1 year without drinking, but more importantly, you know, that wow, once alcohol is behind us, we really do get to take back the pen and start to write our new chapter. And that's a big part of Beyond 90. So you just started in Beyond 90, but what do you think the title of this next chapter is going to be?
Probably actually we're doing a book study at the moment, Letting Go. So that's a big one for me. I'm just looking forward to letting go and finding, you know, there's no rush. I feel content, and I'm happy with the journey as it is now. So letting go, that's my next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Chapter 46 in the book of Brad, Letting Go.
Let's do it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brad, for being here. For our listeners, be like Brad. Book that discovery call, 15 minutes. We'll just have a chat, see how and if we can help you. No matter what the outcome is, it's a huge step to reach out and just connect with someone. Thank you, Brad, for connecting with me and for connecting with our listeners. It's that ripple effect that we talk about. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. Until next time, you guys have a great day. Take good care.